This is Richard with Dice University, and this video I'm just going to show you exactly how you can set up your AWS hosting. AWS stands for Amazon Web Services, and if you are new to signing up to AWS, you can actually have your landers hosted for free for at least 12 months. So if you are running on a low budget or you just want to save some money, which I'm pretty sure 99% of affiliates want to do, then with AWS you can actually host your landing pages for free for 12 months, all right, which obviously is super valuable, over that duration of time as you're testing out different variables. You don't have to spend money investing in a landing page editor if you do not want to choose that option. Obviously, there are some pros and cons of utilizing AWS, where one of the biggest I would say cons would be the fact that you do need to edit HTML. However, if you're not afraid and you're willing to learn some basic knowledge, then it's pretty much basic and very easy for you to actually edit the HTML. I myself am not a developer. I'm not like a technical person per se. However, it's very easy for me to edit the HTML simply because all I'm editing on the HTML is words. I'm not directly editing scripts or anything like that. We're not going into anything too technical. We're not trying to build out entire websites. We're probably just editing a headline or editing a question, etc., etc. So it's fairly basic. So to set this up correctly, there are a few things that you're going to need to do. So let's walk through that right now. Let's scroll down here. So here's the things that you're going to need. You're going to need a Namecheap account, so namecheap.com. Go ahead now if you're following along, or after this video when you have more time, go to namecheap.com and you want to essentially buy a domain. So if you don't have a domain for your landing pages, I would suggest that you go over to Namecheap and you make a domain. You can make a domain that's fairly generic, maybe specific to the vertical that you're looking to run in. But yeah, that will be suggested. Let's say you are running in, let's say the sweepstake vertical, and you're running with push. I'm going to show you what you could do. So you could put something like rewards daily, all right? And that could be your domain. You put in a quick search inside of Namecheap, and then this will then show all the available domains that match that essential string. So I can get rewards-daily.com for $8.88 a year. So that's fairly cheap. That's like £5 in pound sterling. So just go ahead to namecheap.com, acquire your domain, make your account, make sure you have an account, and then you can then move on with the next stages in this process. Now, not only do you need to have a Namecheap account with a domain, you also need to sign up to AWS. So AWS, as mentioned earlier, stands for Amazon Web Services. So AWS is Amazon Web Services. I'm actually going to show you the homepage right now, just to make sure you don't get lost and go to the wrong site. This is AWS, Amazon Web Services. And yes, this is Amazon, the big e-com platform, marketplace. They have essentially a hosting business as well. Like, it's a business with multiple assets, and one of their assets, AWS, is actually a very, very good asset, especially for us as affiliates who are looking to save money in this best way possible, and at the same time not only just save money but have fast loading sites, right? Especially when you're running with push traffic, high volume traffic source, you're going to be getting so many clicks and so forth to your landing page that you need to make sure your landing page loads up very fast. Now, why do I need to make sure my lander loads fast? Some people are maybe asking. The reason for that is simply because if your landing page does not load up fast, what will happen is people will click through on your ad. You will get charged for that click, and as your landing page is loading up, it's taking too long, so they just press the exit button and they're back doing, you know, whatever they were doing with their day. Okay, so now in this scenario, that person is not affected by anything. You know, they tried to go onto a site, it didn't load up. Fine, move on with the day. Now for you, this is a big problem. I'm going to tell you why. Because every time that happens, you're paying for that click, right? You are still being charged. Your ad network, where you're purchasing your traffic, so your traffic network isn't actually going to tell you, you know what, that person didn't wait for your site to load up. We're not going to charge you for that. That's completely fine. No, they're going to charge you on the spot. As soon as that click is registered, no matter what happens next, they are taking your money. And if this is happening for 20, 30%, 40% of your traffic, then that then becomes a big, big problem that you need to address. Otherwise, you will be facing some big issues with that. So I would suggest that, you know, setting up with AWS is almost a priority, especially when you're running with push traffic. So what is the final thing that you're going to need? Let's take a look. So the final thing that you need is your email inbox, all right? So hopefully your email inbox doesn't look as crazy as this one, but you need to have your email inbox because you're going to be receiving some emails as part of this setup process. So make sure you have an email ready that you can connect with your domain. I'm going to show you how you do that. Have an email ready, connect with your domain, and we can go ahead with the next steps. So since we're talking about email, the first step we're going to do now is we're going to head into Namecheap, and I want you to go to the domain that you've just created. So I'm just going to go to Namecheap here. So this is the domain I'm going to be using for this example. So this one, wildthings-research.com. All right. So what I want to do is I want to actually go to domain. So where it says domain, and for you, you want to select manage before you get here. So manage an existing domain, and it'll take you to this screen with the domain, and then you can go ahead, scroll down, and then you can update your email. So I'm just going to put this email address, just change this up, and then I'm going to save that. Great. Now, the reason why we do this is because we're going to be generating an SSL certificate for this domain inside of AWS, all right? If you don't know what SSL certificate is, an SSL certificate simply ensures that your domain has the HTTPS secure domain, all right? And the reason why you need that is because some traffic sources may block landers that do not have that secure security layer, all right? So it's super important that you have that in place. Otherwise, you can lose traffic just by default because a traffic source is blocking your domain. So I'm going to show you exactly how you set this up inside of AWS right now. So I'm just going to head over to AWS. Here we are. Awesome. And let me just log into AWS. Actually, I'm already logged in. Let me head over to the screen where I'm logged in. Awesome. I'm going to go to the main screen. So once you create an account with AWS, you're going to have a screen that looks something like this. All right. Now, what you want to do is you want to go to where it says Find Services. You want to go ahead and put in Certificate Manager. Awesome. Awesome. So I've entered in Certificate Manager. Now, what I then want to do is I want to select Get Started, Request a Certificate, and then I want to enter in my domain. So I'm going to head back to Namecheap, grab my domain URL, and then just paste that in there. And don't skip ahead just yet. What you now want to do is you want to add in what we call a wildcard string. So it's like a wildcard asterisk, which goes before your domain. And what this does is it means that every subdomain that you ever create in future will also be covered by SSL security, all right? Which obviously is super important because you may decide that you want to have a subdomain domain, you want to run campaigns maybe in a different vertical on that subdomain, and you want to make sure that that also is covered with SSL. And this is where you make sure that that happens. So what you then want to do is you want to put in the asterisk, put in a full stop, and then I have put in this wildthingsresearch.com. So all I've done that's different is I've put in this asterisk symbol and I put in a full stop after that, and now I'm ready to continue. I don't need to add any other certificates. I can just press next. And what we want to do is we want to select email validation, and this connects with what we just did before inside of Namecheap. When I added that new email address, it's because I want to have this email validation set up correctly. All right, so super important that you have that set up correctly. So now that that is there and that's in place, I can go ahead and press next. Awesome. Review. Confirm and request. And then continue. Awesome. So now it says pending validation. So pending validation, that means that we now need to wait a couple of minutes before AWS sends us an email for us to essentially validate the domain. So essentially, AWS needs to know that we are actually the owners of this domain before it can issue out a SSL certificate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my email inbox and see if we have an email from AWS. Awesome. So I can go ahead and approve this request. I approve. Fantastic. And I want to approve the second request as well. I approve. Fantastic. Awesome. So I've now approved the 2 emails that I've got from AWS. So in theory, if I go back to AWS and I refresh that page, it should say that my SSL has now been validated and it's been a success. So let's have a look. So status pending validation. Let's see if this updates. It should turn green. Let's see. Refresh. Issued. So it says issued. So if it's working correctly, it will say issued, and validation status will say success. Fantastic. So this should, if you haven't got this showing up inside of your screen right now, what I would suggest is that you actually go back. So go back through the steps, rewind this clip, and go through it again, because it's most likely something that you did wrong in the initial start of the process. And also, if you haven't got an email within the first 15 minutes, make sure you've got your email entered in correctly inside of Namecheap, all right? Make sure you have that in correctly. Otherwise, this part of the process is very, very easy, all right? So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move to the next step. So to do that, I'm gonna go back to this AWS symbol, select that. Awesome. And what I want to do is I want to search S3. So S, whoops, and a 3. Awesome. And then select that. All right. And then I want to select create bucket. And what I like to do is I like to make sure that my certificate and my buckets are always matched. So I want to see if this is correct. Okay, cool. S3 for now. So I'm going to go back to my certificate and make sure I know where the region of my certificate was. So I'm going to go back to Certificate Manager. And this is where a lot of affiliates make mistakes and they don't see things working in some of the upcoming steps. So look, I can see North Virginia, and I'd suggest that you have the same. So when you're setting up your SSL certificate, make sure you have North Virginia selected. Now if I go back to AWS, head back to S3. Great. create bucket. Awesome. And what I want to do here is I want to just put in my domain name, but with a dash. All right. And then just press next. Press next on this screen as well. Great. So now, when you're on this screen where it says block public access, what you essentially want to do is check this option. Yeah. And you just want to have two things selected. So there's 4 options that you could have selected. You just want to have these 2. So uncheck that first one, which forces everything to be connected. So uncheck this, and then you want to check the first 2. So the first 2 are the ones that say have ACL on the end. So ACL is on the end. Then I can go ahead and press next, and I want to just create bucket. Fantastic. So now that I've got my bucket created, I'll go ahead and select the bucket. And I want to then head over to, let's see if it's properties. Let's have a look. Not properties just yet, permissions. So you want to go over to permissions. And now we have permissions, we can see what we've done. Great. And we want to go to bucket policy. And what we want to do is we want to paste in a bit of a script. Okay, here we have to paste in a bit of code. I'm going to show you in another screen. I'm going to show you this bit of code that we are pasting in here. Okay, so this manual gives you all the steps that I'm walking through, but we want to paste this part in. All right, so you should see this code somewhere on your screen, maybe below the video, but you want to paste this in. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that in. Make sure there's no space. Okay, awesome. And now you need to update this. Okay, so right now it says example-com. We need to get that updated because that's not correct. So we need to make sure that's hosted towards our website. So we could just actually copy this. And this needs to be the same as your bucket name. So as you can see, wildthings-research-com. All right, so just to clarify, if you had any issues creating your bucket because you had a .com, make sure you remove the dot and you just have a dash, okay? If you have issues creating your bucket, make sure you have a dash, not a dot, okay? So I can then go ahead and just paste this in with the dash, remove the extra M, and then I can go ahead and just press save. Awesome. So I have now saved it and we can move on to the next step. Fantastic. So we need to go over to properties. And when you're on properties, what you want to do is you want to go to static website hosting. Use this bucket to host a website. And you want to actually copy this. So I want to copy this endpoint URL, and I'm just going to save it in another screen. So I have 2 screens up. So I'm just going to save it in another screen. Great. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter index.html there and also index.html here. So I have this entered in 2 places. I can then go ahead and press save. Awesome. So now we have this part set up. So we are actually almost finished. All right, so the reason why I said that you need to save that endpoint URL is because we're now going to be using that endpoint URL in the next phase. All right, so you need to make sure that you have it saved correctly, have it stored in a notepad or a sticky note on your computer, so you can now use it for the next stage that we're going to do now. So What I then want to do is select this AWS symbol once again. Great. And now that I've selected the AWS symbol, I now want to select CloudFront. But for you, you may not see this because you've never used CloudFront before. So you want to just search CloudFront Global Content Delivery Network. Great. And now that we have CloudFront open, what you want to do is you want to select Create Distribution. So none of these options. Just go ahead to Create Distribution. And you want to select underneath Web, you want to select Get Started. Awesome. And what we want to do, the first thing we want to do is we want to paste in that origin domain name that we grabbed earlier, that we saved before. So that URL, the endpoint URL, we want to then paste that in here. Fantastic. And this will then cause the origin ID to auto-populate. So the origin ID will auto-populate. All right. So if you see this now with something there, don't get worried, don't get afraid, don't touch it. Most importantly, it's supposed to be like that. Now the next thing we don't edit anything else until we get to Viewer Protocol Policy. Once you get to Viewer Protocol Policy, we want to update this redirect HTTP to HTTPS. Select that, and then we can then keep going, scroll down again, keep scrolling down, keep scrolling. Awesome. Until you get down to distribution settings. Now, when you're in distributing settings, you essentially just want to paste in your URL. All right, just paste in the URL for your domain name. So I'm heading back to Namecheap because I almost forgot my URL, and I just want to paste that in here, and then put an asterisk, full stop, and then paste it in once again. So what we're doing here is we're doing the normal domain name, and we're also doing the wildcard domain, where the wildcard means that you have an asterisk and the full stop before your domain name. All right. And again, let me just reiterate, the reason why we have that is so that all of our subdomains in future are also covered by SSL, which is super important. Otherwise, what will happen is that you need to go back into AWS, make changes to your domain, which could mess up existing campaigns just to fit that in, which obviously is a headache and can cause issues for any existing campaigns that you're running. So it's best to just have everything sorted out properly from now. So what we can then do is go ahead down here, select custom SSL certificate. Great. And just to clarify, if you get to this phase and the custom SSL certificate is grayed out, that means that you've done an issue. You have an issue with your SSL certificate. So in the first stage, when you set up your SSL, maybe it's potentially not issued correctly, or it's issued in a different region and the regions aren't connected. So that's super important that you need to go back, do everything again. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck in a loop of frustration. So once again, if you do have a grayed out custom SSL certificate here, go back, start the process again. All right. Otherwise, you're going to end up pulling your hair out, because this can be frustrating if you experience that. So I don't have that problem, so I can go ahead, select custom SSL certificate, select this option, select my certificate, wildthings-research.com. Perfect. I don't need to edit anything else. I can just go ahead and create distribution. Great. Now we are almost finished. If you've made it this far, well done. I know this can be a bit of a tedious process, but once it's done for the domain, your domains are fine. They're live on the web, and you can just upload your sites to your landers to your domain, and it will all work fine. But we're almost done. So there's one more thing we need to do here, and that is grab our domain name. So not our actual domain name, but our CloudFront domain name. So we can see here, this is our CloudFront domain name right here. All right. And what this does is we're going to finish off the setup process. All right. But this part you need to focus on very much because this can be quite technical. So I'm copying this domain name, copying that, and I'm now heading back into Namecheap. All right, so you want to head back into Namecheap, and now that I am in Namecheap, what I'm now doing is I want to go to Advanced DNS. Advanced DNS. Awesome. And what we want to do is we want to essentially paste in this new CNAME. So what I want to do is I want to select add new record. You want to select CNAME record. You don't want to do a record. You don't want to do name server record. Specifically CNAME record. Where it says host, just put the @ symbol, which essentially is like a blank host. And I think that covers the whole domain. And once you've entered that in, you then want to paste in your domain name that you grabbed from CloudFront, all right? And just to clarify what that domain name is, once you've created your CloudFront distribution, you will automatically generate a domain name with CloudFront like this. And that is a domain name that you want to be grabbing and you want to be pasting into Namecheap right here. And then you can go ahead and then you can press your save symbol. Okay, awesome. So you can just save that and that should be working fine. Now, when it comes to actually hosting your landing pages, you pretty much have your site ready and you're ready to go. So where you want to be uploading landing pages is your S3, so your bucket. It's called bucket for a reason because the buckets hold all of your files. So it's like you're holding all your files in a bucket. And if you go to S3, I want to select the domain. And this is where we will be uploading our files. So we just go to upload our files, and we now have our landers live on the web. It is really that simple, and I hope this was very helpful.